Welcome and salams, namaste, and hello. I'm Miriam Qadri, and I'm here with Dr. Gulam Dastagir, and this is the Essential Spirituality YouTube channel where we discuss all things related to spiritual practice, the transcendent, and universality. So today we're going to explore questions our subscribers had related to guides, guidance, and the guiding relationship. Would you like to? Ready?
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, so I'll start with the first one. So the first question was, how does one search for a guide?
So salams again and welcome to everyone. Namaskar. So this is a very interesting question as to how does one search for a guide? And the answer that comes to mind is more than anything else with sincerity. All that is required on the spiritual path in so many ways, if you desire guidance, is just a sincerity in desiring that guidance. If our minds are clear that this is what we really want, some guidance on our way, then surely the guiding principle, which the Sufis refer to as Al-Hadi, also called the Guru, also God, will surely manifest that guidance that we need in one way or the other. It's a very natural process. There is no pushing this in a sense. It doesn't require any sort of looking up to something or someone, trying to fit someone in the mantle of guide. Nothing of that nature. It's an entirely inward journey. Spirituality, for the most part, almost fully is an internal, inward journey. And as a result of that, the guide also resides deep within our hearts. All we are doing is connecting within ourselves, and the guidance comes forth. Now, with time, if this internal guide, which we often refer to as the divine, again Al-Hadi, Shri Guru, has to manifest itself in a human form as a companion on our journey, as a guide on our journey, then that can happen. And that does happen in the form of a murshid or a sheikh or a teacher or a guru in the human form. But again, there's no need to search for a guru per se. The guru will come depending upon your desperation for guidance, and that's the essential requirement for guidance on this path. That's the beauty of it, actually.
So do you feel one has to have a guru, or like it isn't necessary for a guru to come? Because you said the guru will come, as that's a given.
It is definitely a given in the sense that the guru can be, like I said, can take a human form, and when necessary, it will do so. The guiding principle will do so, and it can be through a variety of different teachers, or it could, in time, it goes to one person. In general, that's what tends to happen. Does everyone absolutely have to have a guide? In any field, if you are trying to achieve something in that field, trying to go progress on the field, you'll always take the help of someone who is an expert and knows the field. So I always at least to my own mind, always think in terms of working out. That's a very simple analogy for me. And so when I first entered a gym, I had a personal trainer, someone who took me along the path because they had done a lot more than I had. And so in that sense, in the field of spirituality too, there are those people who have spent a lot of time, who have gained a lot, and who have a lot to offer. It would be silly for me not to accept that offering. I can fumble around and perhaps find my way in some way or the other, but if someone already knows it, it just makes my life that much easier. So you can make it a DIY project, but like all DIY projects, there's always a danger that it could get a little messy.
Well, also there's always like a YouTuber or a book or some resource, right? There's always a resource that even the person who does it on their own ultimately usually has to consult. like very few people actually do something purely on their own. Like they usually, sometimes you can fiddle around with it, but usually they're consulting someone. So in a way you're describing, like I like the athletic analogy where you're describing people who are, of course, coaches and spiritual guides. One may not want to equate the two, but the idea is that you have someone who's been in the field, someone who has a lot of experience, and because of that experience, they have wisdom, and they're able to impart that to others and to help them kind of gain ground much faster than if one were going it alone.
Yeah, absolutely. There's one little thing to always keep in mind, and that the other aspects of life are sort of cut and dry because they work on a corporeal material plane. So it's the principles are a little more concrete. When it comes to spirituality, we're talking about something essentially that is transcendent, that which is beyond something that we can see, sense, and we connect with a faculty that we're not very used to using as such. That's become a little rusted. And so it's very hard to know, okay, who's an expert in this field.
Right, so, I think that's actually one of the dangers of the path.
Right.
For people curious about it or interested in it, is like, how do you know someone who's just making claims or someone who's kind of full of themselves versus someone who's like authentically realized and really
That's definitely one aspect.
Yeah.
And therefore there's no point searching for a guide. We go back to the original premise that there's no need to search for a guide outside. The idea is to search for the guide with sincerity. If you really want guidance, then that guidance will come to you one way or the other. It cannot be withheld from you because that's a basic spiritual law. If you seek sincerely, it shall be given to you. Right. There is no denial on this on the spiritual journey.
Right.
But you have to be sincere in your seeking, and that sincerity is expressed through consistency
I
more
think,
than anything else.
Yeah.
So if you're consistent in our spiritual practices and we are focused that this is what we really want, guidance will come one way or the other. No need to make someone your guide.
Yeah, who comes to my mind is Salman Farsi.
Yeah, the very famous Sufi and
the
companion.
Persian, right?
Yes.
He is so amazing because he grew up Persian and he wasn't satisfied with the faith that he was born into, and then he took up Christianity, and I think he had kind of some of his teachers were a little corrupt from what I understood in the stories, and so, but even so, his sincerity came through. Right. And so he was, I think, sold into slavery, was he not?
Yes.
Yeah, and then in that way he made his way, without intending to the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then everything was like revealed to him. He's considered one of the greatest Sufi masters.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. And that's often the way with mysticism in the Indian traditions, for example. The guide is very important in so many ways, but the guide is not a human being. The guide is God manifesting in different ways, and even if the human form is flawed or even a fraud,
yeah,
it matters not, because your sincerity will bring through the fraud something that is real and something that is useful for you. So again, the sincerity is inward. Again, it's not a matter of projecting what you feel is the correct guide onto someone else.
Right.
No, it's always inward, it's always inward, it's always inward. And when you persist with that, the guidance comes, even from flawed personalities, because ultimately in this physical world, everything and everyone is going to have some blemish somewhere.
Right.
So take the guidance that inspires your heart, and that's all you have to do, and keep using that inspiration to further your inward journey. There is little more to it than that. So how to find a guide? Be sincere, be consistent in your spiritual practice, keep an attitude of learning and universality, and sincerely seek, and for sure the guidance will come. It's as simple as that. There's no need again to look at other people, to make people your guides. This is a very common sort of a fallacy that people choose their guide. It's not a matter of choice at all. The guide just comes naturally. And so that's at least my perspective on it. And in my life it played out in the same way. I don't think I did anything as such to bring Babuji, our teacher, Hazrat Sahib into my life. It just so
Yeah.
happened.
Like in your case, I believe, right, it was a family friend introduced him to your family. Your
Right.
family was in a time of need, and they said, we know someone
Right.
who's very great and can help your mother. And he did, and
Yeah.
and your whole family became devoted to him thereafter.
Yeah.
And like in our own case, like I was really seeking out a husband, and then my husband had Babuji, and then I was like, I'm not sure about this because I grew up Protestant, and so it's a kind of, all these ideas are very foreign to me. But at that time, anyways, and so then I found Babuji, and even for my parents, they were very nervous because it's they didn't know anything about this idea of a guide or a peer or a guru, and but they just saw that there was like such consistent wisdom in his advice to us and his guidance that my mom said your dad and I just stopped worrying.
Yeah.
They just didn't, and even though it's a totally different religious framework, it's a totally different spiritual perspective from what they're used to. It was just, it's just very nice.
Yeah. And initially, when Babuji first came in our lives, I had no conceptualization either. I did have the conceptualization of mysticism because I think it's difficult to grow up in a place like India and not have some idea coming from a Hindu family what mystics are.
Right.
They're just embedded in your cultural ethos. So you're familiar with this idea of a great master or the Jedi master as such.
Yeah.
So it's always there in the back of your mind, but it wasn't until much later. I was a young kid when Babuji was first introduced to a family, and then it was much later in my late teens, early 20s that I sincerely sought guidance. And luckily for me, Babuji was there.
Right.
And so the guidance just came quite easily. And so it was very, very interesting. I was blessed to have that relationship.
Mashallah. Very nice. Yeah.
Yes.
So we'll go on to another question. Is okay?
By all means, yes.
Okay. I have to pop open the phone. Okay. So.
Didn't mean to make it that long-winded.
No, I know
I
it
think-
wasn't.
I
It was
think
good.
it's a
I liked
discussion,
it. It's a discussion. If it's okay. If I can just find the questions, would be helpful. I think I went too far back. Oh. So this is a good one, I think. What position should the seeker be in as a student?
Position in the sense.
Like their relationship too, because normally it's like teacher student, right? So, but what is the role? Because like in like school, you're kind of beneath the teacher, and like you have to listen, and but as adults, that's not like there's the same idea. You're the teacher and the student, but as an adult, you wouldn't want such a discrepancy in like you're a child and I'm an adult. Like there should be some degree of equality. So what's the position the student should be in? Like a healthy position for the student.
I think what is being asked here is like, what is the attitude that a student should maintain, right? How
Perhaps.
So what kind of attitude of being inferior in some way, or being superior or equal, whatever that is.
Right.
Again, in many ways, that's not that relevant. What is so important is that we keep an attitude of learning. We are here to learn. And we are here to learn how fast we can grow and realize ourselves, realize the truth that is within and that connects everything and everyone. The sages have made it very clear, and that's what we really want to experience. We want to desperately experience that, especially because it's supposed to be deeply pleasurable. So why not, right? Yeah, so I mean, it's often described as ecstasy and ananda.
No, I like it.
So being something that is eternally blissful, that is our original state. That's what we want to experience, and that's the inward path. We are trying to experience that state within ourselves,
Right.
and so we want to learn whatever we can possibly learn that inspires us and that gives us those glimpses of that bliss. Rest is irrelevant and immaterial. What attitude I keep towards a particular person, in general, if you get something worthwhile through a human form, you will automatically attribute to it some degree of respect and love and so on and so forth. But that is very natural. It's not something that is forced.
Right.
There is a degree of sometimes if you join a specific organization or a particular spiritual order, there are its own norms and there are its own rules and so on, and perhaps uh, behavioral conduct and so on,
Right,
rules of conduct
right.
as such. But those are formalities,
Mm-hmm.
and the connection is always inward.
Okay.
So the formalities you should pay attention to, if only to make sure that people are not offended around you.
Right, right.
And that's the only
and it's
reason.
considerate.
And
Yeah,
it's considerate
it's absolutely
because let's say it's a
considerate.
cultural norm or it's a
Mhm.
cultural value of some kind. You don't
Mhm.
want to go ahead and unnecessarily, stir that because
Mhm.
that has no value. What
Mhm.
value you're getting is entirely inward.
Yeah. Mhm.
The relationship with your guide is inward.
Mhm.
It is, for a lack of, for better words, it's telepathic almost. It's a heart-to-heart connection. That's what
Right.
that's how Sufis would point it out. It's
Right.
a connection of the heart.
Right.
And so when it's the connection of the heart, every mental framework
Mhm.
can just be kept aside.
Right.
Like he's my teacher, I'm his student, he's my master, I'm his disciple, she's the sheikha, I'm just a student. None of this matters.
Mhm.
I'm equal to them, I'm not equal to them. None of it. These are all mental frameworks.
Mhm.
In the relationship of the heart, which is so deeply inward, it really does not matter.
Mhm.
And in that sense, it becomes irrelevant.
So then the most important thing is the attitude of learning.
Yeah.
That's the position the student wants to be in. I think it goes back to then the importance of sincerity and maybe not rushing into a guiding relationship, because when people rush into it, you may not know who you're sitting with, and you may not find it that it might be difficult to develop a heart connection then, because you've kind of, like you said, either projected that this person is my guide, or you've kind of taken it upon yourself to make
Yeah.
someone your guide. But when it comes naturally, then it's easy to have an attitude of learning, because you already feel confident in this person and you're really receptive to them. Does that make sense?
Yes, it's absolutely, it makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah.
Analogically as such, right?
Mhm.
Just as an analogy,
Oh, okay.
right? If something is sweet
Mhm.
and you like sweets,
Mhm.
you don't project that
Mhm.
onto the thing that is sweet.
Right.
You just know it's sweet
Right.
and you connect with it.
Right.
So it's very simple. It's very similar
Mhm.
with the guiding relationship as well.
Mhm.
It's not much about talk, and it's definitely not about mental models.
Okay.
In fact, mental models will only come in the way.
Mhm.
So the ideal thing is to sit, if you're in the presence of your teacher,
Mhm.
in wherever, just sit in the presence and silently observe.
Mhm.
Silently see what comes up inside you. What I noticed is whenever I would sit with a person who is well along the path, the mind would just automatically go calm. Either that, or the mind would initially have huge amounts of reactions. Every sort of mental model would come in the way, and then it would dissipate. Or some kind of a mantra would begin, a wazifa would begin automatically.
Mhm.
And this was very typical in the presence of my teacher, at
Mhm.
least. In the presence of Babuji, the tongue got automatically tied
Mhm.
because there was nothing worth saying.
Mhm.
I would often take notes, and I would have a whole bunch of questions before I got into his presence, but then the words were superfluous because he often answered them without ever speaking.
Mhm.
In fact, Babuji was very, very sparse when it came to speech.
Mhm.
And he himself spoke so less, and for whatever reason, the awe that he created, and I don't mean awe in the sense that it was some kind of fear or something.
Mhm.
There is a concept called awe in spirituality,
Mhm.
and it's explained in the scriptures, for example, that in the presence of God,
Mhm.
you feel a sense of awe.
Mhm.
God is awesome,
Mhm.
right? People say those kinds of things. So
Mhm.
that when you're faced with that reality or something that reflects that reality so profoundly,
Mhm.
you're awed in the sense that your normal faculties, your faculties of reasoning, your mental models,
Mhm.
your speech
Mhm.
are just awed into being quiet.
Like I get that experience if you stand before the ocean on the west coast, especially.
Absolutely.
On the ocean of the west coast is very, very powerful.
Yeah,
Sometimes the night sky, if it's a full open night sky, can be so.
I can't agree more. Yeah,
Yeah, so
absolutely.
amazing.
So I mean, when you stand in front of that starry sky,
Majesty. It's
and-
like
and-
majesty.
and that
Yeah.
majesty overwhelms you,
Mhm.
right? And so, with our being as human as we are, we relate to it at a personal level and
Mhm.
say God is awesome and majestic, and he is, he breaks you down. His majesty makes you feel like nothing. It's a humbling experience. But just go under the stars, and you'll come back humble.
Yeah.
Because in a moment we realize that we're not even specks of dust in the grand scale of things. In this universe, we're not even microscopic.
Right.
So it really puts that into perspective.
Yeah.
And so that's what the
That's
teacher
a great
does
reminder.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great reminder.
And I think that's what happens with your teacher as well. It just puts you in that position. And with Babuji, I always felt like that. I rarely felt the need to talk. And many a times, just for the sake of fun, I would sort of test him through an internal communication. And it was awesome to see his responses.
Yeah.
It would just make me realize that, oh my gosh, this is for real.
Yeah.
It's for real. Because it's everything around us tells us that, we analyze things, we use our mind, and that's not how it works with in spirituality. The mind is more often than not in the way.
Yeah.
So it's best to just
still the mind.
And so that's what I would suggest, that if with the guide, the position to be in is a position of receptivity.
Right.
Right. And
like the moon to the sun.
Right, and let that light be reflected onto you.
Right.
And sometimes it might not even be the sun. It might just be a larger planet that's throwing more light towards you. That's fine. That's not your problem. Your problem is just to receive the light, right? We just want light, and we just want that internal bliss.
Right.
Who cares how it comes?
Right.
So focus inwardly. As a practical suggestion, we should just focus inwardly on our spiritual practice.
Yeah.
So if it's some kind of breathing exercise that we are familiar with, maybe we do some breath work, or maybe we chant some kind of mantra, and see what happens in the presence of a guide. You might have some very amazing experiences, some very inspirational experiences. You might feel very elevated, and sometimes you might find that your mind puts up a fight.
Yeah.
I
would definitely think so. Yeah. It's hard to. I have monkey mind, so.
Right. and it'll produce all sorts of thoughts, and you're like, what the heck? And that happened to me quite a bit too. I'd be in front of my teacher, and I'd be like surrounded by crazy thoughts, and that will produce doubt. That will produce second guesses and all sorts of things. And I was like, what am I doing? But in time, I just realized that no, just focus on the mantra, on the wazifa, on the zikr. Focus on your breath, and things take care of themselves. We try to take care of too many things. We don't need to.
Yeah.
So that's the way I found it. It was very interesting. It's a learning experience.
It is, yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
So that attitude of learning as going back to square one.
Yeah. Fantastic.
So, yeah.
Okay, so let's see. It always goes back to the start, which I apologize for, so it takes some time. Okay. I'm going to jump around with the questions a bit.
No problem at all.
So, okay, what if you are working with one guide, but you are not feeling inspired by their guidance and words? Sufis in the olden days never had this requirement where a student can only have one and only teacher. It's a late innovation. No wonder some Muslims think Sufism is full of unhealthy innovations. Who says you are allowed to have one and only one teacher?
Nobody.
Nobody. Okay.
Nobody.
Okay.
There is only one and only one teacher, in the sense that there is only one reality.
Right.
You can call that reality theistically as God. It doesn't have to be. But that one reality, and it is one because it connects all of us.
Right.
So there is unity. It's a unitive phenomenon. And it can express itself in the form of the guidance that you need. And even more so, it can express itself in a physical form of guidance, which we call the guru or the sheikh or whatever. But again, if you're meant to have one guru, one teacher, one sheikh, alhamdulillah, it's very natural, and you will know it.
Yeah.
You will not find the need to explore.
So your desire to look elsewhere you just don't have it.
We just don't have it.
Yeah.
So it's a very natural process.
Yeah.
It's like
kind of like not getting distracted.
Yeah, kind of like not getting distracted, or let's say you experiment with different kinds of supplements or drinks or whatever. Like, we try chai, right? You like coffee. I like some sort of different things. But ultimately, I just gravitated towards espresso because it suits me the best. And
Right.
after that, I don't feel like really going anywhere else. Now you can offer me a filter coffee, or you can offer me a chai or something like that, or I might even see it, and occasionally I might even take a whiff of it. But the espresso does it for me. I mean, that's a crude analogy, but in some way you naturally gravitate, and you know that this is it. So at that point in time, there's no need for me to go and have chai.
Right.
Right. So similarly, when that manifestation, if that manifestation is meant to happen and it happens in your life, there is no question of exploration because you will not find the need for exploration.
Right. It's almost, I would say, like someone someone you can't wait to see and love to come home to.
Right.
They're on your mind, and they're like everything to you. So
Right.
so there isn't you lose the interest to go around here or there, and they hold your interest really. For the most part, they're they captivate.
And I suppose you can think of it in terms of like romantic relationships that people have, right?
Yeah.
If initially you might be a bit of a butterfly and go from one place, one place until you find the one that everything clicks with, and then you want to stay with that person.
Right.
And so it's kind of similar. It's natural at that point in time. Hopefully, you're not looking around, but it's a little tricky in that because your mind, the tendency of the mind, is to love variety.
Right.
That's why they say variety is the spice of life, right? The Hindus call it vrittis of the manas. And so you have these tendencies. The proclivity of the mind is to look at different things. It's just it. So you have to be sure when you're with someone, is this just a proclivity of your mind that, because of pure habit, it's going from place to place, place to place? Or is it something deeper than that? After due reflection, if you really still feel, okay, this is not working for me, I'm not getting any inspiration, I don't feel inspired to seek anymore, this is not working out, then know that this is not working out. This is not meant to be. Don't let your mind
stagnating. It's like some people who feel like, if God forbid, like they're in a marriage that's not working out. Some people feel they ought to tough it out for various reasons, but both people are very unhappy in that situation.
Right, you're just destroying your life at that point in time.
Right,
so
right. So
at such times it's
better to
part
let
ways,
go and be happy and
problem.
continue on.
And if the spiritual guide is of any maturity, they'll have no problem in letting go.
Right.
Because they know, just as anyone else does, that when the time is right, the guiding principle will manifest in this person's life in whatever form. Not necessarily in my
like
form,
in the form
not necessarily
and what they need and how they need it. Yeah.
And so to see that seeker's growth fills the guru's heart with love and life.
Yeah.
That's all the guru cares about. The true guru is that person who wants his student to exceed himself.
Right.
And so if that makes you happy, then the teacher is happy. That's all it takes. So the only caveat in this whole thing is that just be sure that your mind is not playing games with you.
Right.
Because it can do that, because that's the tendency of the mind. However, after giving due reflection, after waiting for a little bit of time, and you still feel that this is just not working out, there is no harm. Let's not use our mental projection and put this mantle on someone saying that, no, I've chosen this as my guide. And that's the problem with choosing your guides.
Right.
The moment you start choosing, then you've tied yourself, because you've made that choice, you've identified with that choice. And the moment your identification comes in, it's very hard to separate them. And then you'll have guilt, you'll feel that, oh my gosh, am I betraying this person? Am I doing something incorrect here? No, it's just that your heart, it's not resonating in your heart, it's not working out for you. Look.
I'd like to share a story related to this that because sometimes, and this is another question that a subscriber asked, was like kind of the healthy and unhealthy trajectories of a guiding relationship. So I'm going to tie it into that question as well. But when we had Babuji, we had a beautiful guiding relationship with him, but there were incidences, not from Babuji but other people, which really shook up my faith at a time. And I kind of I lost faith. But it was interesting because Babuji came in my dreams and he directed me to another pier.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw another pier and he directed me there and he gave his blessing and things. So I went to that pier and that pier school for a time. And then again I had a very powerful dream, which indicated I needed to go away. And it was Babuji only who came, whose face I saw. It was like Babuji coming back to my aid.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so beautiful because both Babuji and the peer he entrusted me to really manifested that loving kindness,
Mm-hmm.
that sincere concern, and that like unconditional love.
That unconditionality is also
yeah,
crucial.
it's so crucial.
Yeah, it's very crucial.
And so now we're doing this together, through Babuji's guidance to you and his what do you call it, the Jana machine, the Sajda machine, is that the expression?
Yeah, the ijaza, or the authorization. The permission.
The permission, no, not permission, like Munabaisa. What is his? He's the Babuji's successor.
Yes, successor.
So okay,
the Sajda machine.
Sajda machine. So we have his blessing too on this, and just recently again I had a dream of Babuji and I haven't seen him in a long time, and I get nervous, as you know, and scared about things, and Babuji was with us and protecting us, and he was watching over us, and I woke up from the dream feeling so good about that.
Yeah, so ultimately it's that guiding principle.
Mm-hmm.
It's the guru. In our case, it's taking the form of whatever teachers that we have in our life.
Mm-hmm.
We relate more to Babuji.
Mm-hmm.
And so Allah, Alhamdulillah, is merciful.
Yeah.
He manifests in the way that's most compatible to you.
Right.
So if that manifestation is not compatible, there's some other manifestation that he'll take. Right? Don't worry, he can take infinite manifestations.
Yeah.
So there's no problem. So long as that thing inspires your heart,
Mm-hmm.
that's what's meant for you.
Yeah.
And there's no problem in exploring as such, because that's the whole thing. You have to explore the journey. The journey is one of exploration.
Right.
That's how you learn, and that's how we find. If we don't explore, we will never find.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead and explore,
Mm-hmm.
and inshallah, or if it is meant to be, you might just find that one fruit in the garden
Mm-hmm.
that serves your purpose.
For me, that's not fruit, but vanilla ice cream.
Yeah. So however
Yeah.
you
The flavor.
that one flavor does it for you,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But ice cream just has 31 flavors in Baskin Robbins,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I think it's so much variety.
But
yeah.
God's ice cream shop has
Mm-hmm.
infinite flavors.
Right.
So in infinite ways,
Mm-hmm.
He can produce guides and guidance. And so all we have to do is look inwards and be sincere.
Mm-hmm.
That's again coming back to that.
Yeah.
Be sincere to ourselves. This is what we truly want. We really want to walk on this path. We really want to know ourselves better.
Mm-hmm.
We want to really experience the bliss that all the great sages and all the great teachers have talked about. And that's why we are here. And that is the sincere desire, then the rule, the law is that the guidance will manifest. It has no choice. So through our sincerity, we compel the reality, divinity, call it what you will, to come and guide us. We don't have to worry about the guidance. Inshallah, it will always come.
So very nice. So alhamdulillah. So
Yeah,
I didn't touch you, but
You're on TV now.
We're on TV. So alhamdulillah. I think that's a wrap. This has been a very fruitful and blessed conversation, and I really enjoyed it, having it with you. And I hope our subscribers of Productive Wisdom, we have a weekly newsletter inspired by all things universal, perennial, holistic, productive, and fun, if you're interested. And this channel will continue. We'll try to keep on having these kind of conversations. If you liked it, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. So thank you very much. Allah Hafiz.
Assalamu alaikum and namaskar.
Yay!